Welcome everyone to Kami Academy. Now I'd like everyone to pull out your textbooks and turn to chapter 2. Today, we'll be discussing finding your sensitivity. Aw, look how cute those kittens are. No, not that sensitivity. Your in-game sensitivity. I like to place a little disclaimer here and say that sensitivity is a preference. Having faster or slower sensitivity isn't better or worse. Alright, let's go over some keywords to start off. Alright, so first we have in-game sensitivity. Now this is literally just the number you put your sensitivity to in-game. Easy. Up next is FOV, or field of view. You can find this number under the video settings. Now the higher this number is, the more you can see around you. But in turn, you kind of get this like zoomed out effect and targets become smaller. The lower your FOV is, the less you can see around you, but the larger the targets are. Those poor bots. Next we have your mouse DPI. Now DPI stands for dots per inch. The higher your DPI is, the more your cursor on your screen will move when you move your mouse. Certain mice can have really high DPI, but you really don't need more than 800. To be honest, companies stating that their products can go up to over 9,000! It's just a pointless shiny badge to trick you into, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. Anyway, I personally use 400 DPI and 5 in-game sensitivity. Now, if I were to raise my DPI to 800, but I kept the same in-game sensitivity, my overall sensitivity would increase. So instead of trying to pull a Rain Man and keep track of 3 numbers, let's just narrow it down to our last keyword, inches per 360. Now all this means is that you have to move your mouse X inches to complete a 360. The lower your inches per 360 is, the faster your sensitivity will be. So what's the best inches per 360? Again, there's no best number here. From my experience though, I'd suggest trying to keep it between like 12 and 24. My personal inches per 360 is 19.7. Not that any of you care. Alright, so wait Kami, are you asking me to get a ruler out and measure how far it takes to... No. Which, I'm sure all of you have rulers next to your computers anyway. There's websites out there to make the process much easier. I personally love mouse-sensitivity.com. Hashtag not spons, but spons? The main reason is not only can it figure out your inches per 360, but you can transfer that information to another game and it'll figure out what your in-game sensitivity would need to be in that new game so it feels the same as the first game. That makes sense? No? Great. Now I'm going to assume you're playing Paladins, right? So we'll choose Paladins here. And then for our sensitivity, well for me, I'll put 5 here. And my DPI, 400. Next we have FOV. So changing your FOV not only does the effects like I mentioned before, but it also affects your inches per 360 slightly too. The higher your FOV, the more you can see, which in turn makes it so your mouse needs less movement to complete a full 360. This number is like a nice variable for minute tweaks to get your sensitivity feeling just right. So for me, I'll enter in 100 here. And if we scroll down, it does all the math for us and it comes out to 19.6608 or 19.7. You have your number? Cool, I don't care. I'm kidding. Now this number breaks people up into 2 categories, which brings us to our last topic, arm aiming and wrist aiming. So who belongs in which category? Well, generally people with higher inches per 360 will primarily be arm aimers and lower inches per 360 will be wrist aimers. Now what I mean by arm and wrist aimers is what body part you use to aim the majority of the time. You're not gonna use your arm or your wrist all the time, but you got it. I mean, let's take like 20 inches for example. If you try to rest your wrist on the table and use it as a pivot, you're gonna wear your wrist out quick. At 20 inches, you'll probably need to rest your forearm on the table to get the full motion out of your arm. There's a bit more effort needed to do big movements like a 360. For example, I can't even do a full 360 in one sweep. It takes me like 2. Yet for a wrist aimer, they might just need to do a solid flick and to do a 360. While that's great and all, that also means that their precision aim might suffer a little bit. As always, which one you choose is up to your preference, but sometimes there's physical limitations that might make one category a little bit more enticing than the other. One can literally be playing space. If you're playing on a small table that can barely fit your keyboard and mouse on it, then obviously a lower inches per 360 will work out better for you. Or just buy a bigger table. Another could be physical ailments. Oh, so sad. My wrist tends to act up if I overuse it, so I prefer to leave the majority of my aiming to my arm. The overall idea is to just find that perfect middle ground where you can have a good spatial awareness while keeping your precision. Alright, now you have your tools, it's time to go test it out. Now, sometimes lower or higher inches per 360, that you're used to, can feel a little weird. But stick with it. Give it a solid hour or 2 and see if you kind of feel like you're adjusting it all. Weigh the pros and cons every time and practice. Once you find one you like, don't change it. Now, every time you play, you'll start to build that muscle memory. Aiming will start becoming easier and easier, almost second nature. Alright, that wraps everything up. As we come to a closing, I want to share something with you. In the process of recording this video, I had a hell of a time setting up that hand cam rig kind of saw earlier. At one point, I accidentally knocked it over and it cracked me up. I thought to myself, hey, I'll reenact what happened so other people will be able to laugh at my stupidity. What I didn't know is how bad of an actor I really was, and the reenactment literally turned into an as seen on TV commercial. I hope you enjoy. Oh, and don't forget to leave a comment on something you want to see covered in a future video, and what Inches Bird 360 are you using? Be loud and proud, baby! Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm not gonna be one of those people who asks you to like and subscribe, so I'm not gonna ask.